Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Neeti Goyal from IGM College, District Kurukshetra. Today we are going to talk on module Organizational Design from the paper Principles of Management. Objectives of this lesson are to know the meaning of organizational design, to know the importance of a good organizational structure, to know the principle of a good organizational design, to know the steps of organizational design process. Let's talk about the organizational design. An organizational structure gets developed through the process of organizing. Organizing is one of the functions of management which follows planning. Organizing provides structure to the organization. According to Chester Bernard, organizing is a function by which the concern is able to define the role positions, the job related, and the coordination between authority and responsibility. According to Stan Cosson, organization structure has to do with how tasks are to be allocated, who reports to who, and who does what, and the formal coordinating mechanism and interaction patterns. Organization as a process refers to defining the activities to be performed for accomplishment of objectives, grouping similar activities, assigning authority and responsibility, establishing accountability, and coordinating the efforts so as to achieve the business objectives. Organization creates a structure of formal authority and responsibility relationships. Organization brings together people, function, and physical facilities. It determines the flow of communication and the flow of authority and responsibility in the organization. For many people, organization design and organization structure are the same. However, the two are different. Organizational design is a broader term that encloses such an organizational structure which helps in achieving organization's goals. It reviews the relationship between different tasks, workflow, information flow, responsibility, and authority, and make sure that these all support the objectives of the business. Thus, organizational design refers to aligning organizational structure with the business goals. It is both a plan and a process. The purpose of the organizational design is to create the right structure that fits the requirements of the strategy to be implemented. There is no best structure available anywhere, and also there is nothing such as a good or a bad structure. Structures either match or do not match with the requirements of a business strategy. Design process is a comprehensive and holistic approach to organizational improvement that touches all aspects of organizational life. It helps in achieving the business goals through improving customer service, increases profitability and efficiency of business and hence growth, reduces the operating costs, lead to increase in employees' commitment, increases coordination, facilitates flow of communication, and helps fixing clear accountability. External environment has become too dynamic, complex, and challenging. Structures once established may need to be redesigned as the old structures may become barriers to efficiency, profitability, and employee morale. Poor organizational design affects efficiency and productivity badly. Despite of having a great mission, great plans, even good staff, motivation and leadership, organization cannot work because of organization design as it restricts the flow of information, affects business activities, system of incentive, and there are no well-defined relationships. All of these factors are the facets of the organization's design, and each facet is important to organization's success. Take the example of a company whose two departments, production and purchase, work excellent as separate units, but still the organization suffers, since Both need to communicate regularly and work in coordination, but the organizational design does not facilitate information sharing. Hence, the company performance suffers as a result. Organizations that don't periodically renew themselves suffer from symptoms such as poor coordination, lack of accountability for activities, poor flow of information and work, inefficiency in work, redundant efforts, deterioration in quality of product or service, reduced customer focus, blame game persists in the organization, and there is no effort on identifying and solving problems, delay in decision making and responsiveness, and poorly defined systems, and mistrust between workers and management. Good organizational design facilitates communications, efficiency, and innovation. It creates an environment where people can work efficiently. Principles of a good organizational design. As already mentioned above, there is no good or bad structure. However, every design should be evaluated against some key organizational principles. These are strategy. Structure should be such that it enables the implementation of the business strategy to achieve the objectives of the organization. Not only this, it should also support the critical capabilities that distinguish a company from others. So the right structure for no two companies can possibly be same, even if they are in the same industry. A good organizational structure helps achieve the objectives of the organization by managing it appropriately, by giving appropriate importance to activities based on their importance in achieving goals. This happens not only at the managerial level but functional level as well. The span of control and layers in the organizational hierarchy should all depend on the purpose of the organization. Leverage people. Even if a company has designed an organizational structure that is best aligned with its strategy but has not employed the right people, it will fail. A thorough analysis of the current people's ability and the current structure should be made. Also, incentives and rewards must be aligned with the business strategy and purpose. When these are not aligned, then the employees think more of self-interest rather than the organization. Cost containment. An organizational structure must help in cost containment. The organizational structure should remove redundant roles by analyzing staffing levels, span of control in the context of business strategy. The total work should be divided into different sub-works based on strategic relevance, and most important strategic positions should be identified. Companies should also try to protect them even in the most difficult times and cut costs in other areas if the need arises. Next is to operate within constraints. There are various constraints within which a structure operates, which put limits on companies and their organizational designs. For example, government policies, the stakeholders and finances, etc. Organizational structure must be designed keeping in view these constraints. If organizational structure is designed without keeping these constraints in mind, it will become dysfunctional till the constraints are removed or the structure is readjusted. For example, if customer tastes for your products are same around the world, then a simple structure will be efficient because of single branding, same policies and usage guidelines. But if the consumer tastes for the product are different around the world, then the structure which facilitates delegation of these decision rights to the local business dealers would be effective, since single branding, same policies and same guidelines won't work anymore. Accentuate the informal. Formal structures are attractive to companies because they can be easily defined and measured, and it is easy to fix accountability. In spite of efforts to strengthen the formal structure, like changing the organizational structure or set up information systems, the results are not achieved. These gaps can be filled by the informal structure. For example, the disruption in the flow of information within an organization because of the defect in organizational structure can be corrected by redesigning the structure, which is not an easy task. There is another solution to this problem which could be very effective. The other option is that management should try to strengthen the informal social network between individuals. It will not even need the active management of a supervisor. It leads to a win-win solution for both the management and employees. The formal and informal structures both have to work in synchronization to achieve the company's results. Protect critical specialists. There are some positions within an organization which are strategically important and whose nature is very different from the rest of the works. Talent is a critical but often overlooked factor in designing the organization. But this should not be there. Rather, separate positions need to be designed to make the most of the strengths of the people who occupy strategically important positions. Technical skills and managerial acumen of key people should be recognized, and leaders should help them in getting coordination from other people as well. Optimize hierarchy. The business should align the number of management layers with its risk profile. Flatter organization structures are more risk-tolerant than multi-layered hierarchies. Larger the number of management layers, more is the tendency of data getting screened as they go up the chain. As a result, those at the top of the hierarchy will have fewer decisions to make and will be presented with fewer options that have been more thoroughly analyzed. However, the multi-layered hierarchy will make fewer mistakes but will also miss more opportunities and will take longer time to make decisions. But this is not the case with the flatter organization. However, each structure has its own merits and demerits, but the number of levels should match the requirement. Clarify decision rights and responsibilities. The right to take decision rights should be made clear. Information and decision rights have the strongest effect on improving the execution of strategy. When decision rights and motivators are established, it gets easy to establish clear accountability. Responsibilities and the rights of taking decisions regarding them should be given to them who have the requisite knowledge and skills, or from where the skills can be assembled more inexpensively. Strengthen accountability. If supervisors cannot assess the subordinates' performance, they will not be able to exercise adequate control. A good organizational design strengthens accountability for work. Organization should be designed in such a way that it is easy to fix accountability for work which are assigned, and information flows rapidly and clearly to the top management. Establishing decision rights and motivators help in clarifying accountability. Less number of organizational layers and speedy flow of information also help in creating accountability. Greater the span of control, less are the number of layers. The span depends on the nature of organization, amount of supervision, and degree of automation used. For example, in an organization such as a call center, the span can be wider since work is general in nature and heavily automated. But in an organization where specialized knowledge is required, such as software development team, span would be narrow as greater control is required. Improve innovation and flexibility. The market environment is unpredictable, so the organization design must be flexible enough to adjust to it. The factors which restrict a company's flexibility and innovation exist at organizational level and in the design of individual roles. Undue complexity and interdependence in a company's organizational structure restrict its flexibility because of the rippling effect on many more interwoven individuals than under separated structure. At the individual level, nature of job can be a barrier to innovation if the role responsibilities do not vary enough, and due to work pressure, the individuals have less time and energy for anything else than the task at hand. Not to adopt any design as benchmark. One of the most common mistakes while designing an organizational structure is to look for the best organizational design practices. It can be helpful in theory to track the competitors or may help you optimize your own design, but by doing this, you might not be able to get an optimal structure, since following the competitors, an organization will ignore its unique capabilities. For example, two companies might be producing the same products, but one caters to the need of youngsters at the national level and other caters the needs of every age group. These two companies would require different organizational designs. If one set up a wrong example as benchmark, you might land nowhere. Organizational design process. The design process creates an effective organization that helps in implementing the strategy and get desired results of the organization. The first challenge is to design an effective structure that helps in achieving the objectives, and the second challenge is in its implementation. The two methods through which the design process can be set up have been discussed here: the conference method and the core design team method. The conference method. Under this method, a significant number of employees can directly participate in the design process. Top management, through conferencing with employees, can get their participation in real-time design, analysis, and implementation sessions. This gives them a sense of commitment and ownership to the new design process. This method does not consume much time in designing, as problems can be identified easily and design and implementation decisions can be made quickly. The core design team method. Under this method, smaller number of employees can participate in the design process, but still, commitment and ownership can be stimulated throughout the organization by regular communication to the rest of the organization. Here, a team is made by senior management from the members of the organization who analyze, redesign, and develop implementation plans and present it to the senior members and rest of the organization for approval and adjustment. The advantage of this method is that the design team can make a deeper analysis of the facts, but this method is more time consuming. With either the conference method or the design method, the basic design process remains the same, which has been discussed as follows. The first step in organizational design is in-depth process analysis. As a first step, an assessment of the organization is made to prepare for organizational redesigning. All the work processes and information flows, etc., are analyzed in detail. After an overall initial analysis is over, a further deeper in-depth analysis of the processes which are critical to the organization is made before design decisions are made regarding them. If some other systems or structures which need to be understood better, they are also analyzed in detail. In-depth analysis can take from a few days to few weeks depending on the need for more data, and no haste should be made in such an analysis. Second step is organization design. During this session, new design is deliberated upon. The participants give recommendations as to what design process, structure, workflow, resource communication strategy, recruitment and selection, training, performance management, and rewards and other parameters should be followed in the organization with current strategies and business demands. Thus, an outline of the new design is prepared. Some portions of the ideal design are chosen for implementation on a startup organization, which is to test the new design before the actual design is implemented. The third step is transition planning. After the design recommendations of the startup have been accepted, both transition and implementation plans are developed. Transition phase may vary from 2 weeks to 6 months depending upon the size of the organization and complexity. Transition is a period of time between design and startup. Implementation is the period of time between startup and ideation. During transition planning, participants identify all transition activities such as employee communication, leadership training, or staffing changes necessary for successful implementation of the startup design throughout the organization. Implementation tasks are also identified at this stage. After identifying transition and implementation activities, participants prepare a sequence of these activities along with the timeline for each activity. Thus, action plans are developed at this stage. Next, the team development and empowerment planning. Individuals or teams are considered empowered when they are clear about expected results, expected behaviors, authority levels, and time constraints, and are equipped with skills, resources, and support they need to achieve their objectives. Thus, empowerment planning is identifying the boundaries, skills, resources, and support that teams need. Planning is done by middle management and team leaders. This session takes 1 or 2 days to complete. This step is often skipped to speed up the process, but it is important since only after this exercise it becomes clear about what is truly expected from the teams and what is needed to support them. A well-defined team development and empowerment plan serves as a roadmap for team development and success. Next come the new design implementation and follow-up. The purpose of transition phase is to test the working of the new design and find out the gaps, if any, and to remove them and to get prepared for the changes that the new design is going to bring. It is during the transition period that new structures, processes, policies, and plans can be explained to prepare for implementation. During implementation, the organization breaks from the past and begins to function in the new design. New reporting relationships begin to work, resources are reallocated, and new policies and procedures are adopted, and an all-new way of operating begins. Successful implementation requires continued follow-up, especially during the initial stages. Active participation of leaders can be of great help. Their leadership skills may be enhanced by giving them training in this regard to secure better cooperation and less resistance. Active involvement of senior management is must. Implementation phase is not a day's event. It is a process which may take months to fully implement the ideal design. Team, startup, and development training. Startup training is given together and to tell them what they must accomplish in the new design and how to accomplish it effectively. Teams are given training in business and social skills required by them to manage their tasks and improve their performance. Leaders explain team development plans to their teams and discuss how those plans can be implemented over time. The training provided depends on the development needs of each team. It is always better if organizations invest in their own training staff who can provide ongoing planning, assessment, and delivery. Then, adjust and refine coordination and development systems. Coordination systems include systems such as communication and information sharing, feedback and policies and procedures, etc. Development systems include recruitment and selection, orientation, training and development, promotion, performance evaluation and feedback, compensation, reward and recognition. During the startup time, these systems have already been implemented. However, some of the system may require adjustment or redesign and thus further input for development of implementation plans are required. During startup, a task force for each of the key coordination and development systems that need continued review and adjustment had been developed. Each task force studies, makes recommendations for appropriate adjustment or redesign of their designated system, and then guides and monitors implementation of that system throughout the organization. These systems may continually need to be refined and implemented until the systems get effectively integrated into the new organizational design. The figure given below gives an illustration of the organizational structure that company XYZ had initially adopted. They realized that they became unresponsive to the consumers' needs, so they redesigned their structure. The redesigned structure has also been given after that. The previous figure of the pre-designed workflow illustrates an organization structure that has been created on the basis of functions. After redesigning the company's structure, it has become more cross-functional. A number of people from different departments have been combined into teams, and they were given full responsibility to manage the customer needs. Thus, after redesigning, company sales increased by 50% and the profit margin also increased. So, student, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. Organizational structure enables the performance of activities in line with the company's strategy. The purpose of the organizational design is to create the right structure that fits the requirements of the strategy to be implemented. All organizational components, such as people, process, technology, structure, should be aligned with the strategy and coordinate with each other. There is no best structure available anywhere, and also there is nothing such as a good or a bad structure. Structures either match or do not match with the requirements of a business strategy. At each stage of growth or change, the organization design needs to be assessed and aligned as necessary. It should create decision rights and clarify responsibility. One should not use any organization's structure as benchmark, as each organization has its own unique capabilities, and that structure may not allow you to align with strategy while maintaining your core competencies. Thank you.